the newest addition to the UFC Flyweight roster, Miranda Maverick. Thank you, Miranda, for your time today. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on here. I appreciate it.
No doubt. Now, you established your name in the Midwest and then you ended up moving to the East Coast to Virginia. You're in school for psychology, PhD. How far along are you with your education?
About to get my master's officially because I'm about to turn in my master's thesis, but I already have 3 years under my belt of PhD credits. So all I have left basically is one more semester of classes and then research for the next year and a half or so.
Wow. Has Old Dominion been shut down because of the pandemic or has it opened up?
They shut down for the latter half of the spring semester. We mainly were just meeting outside of class, but ultimately, like the COVID didn't affect it too much because most of it was through the summer. So for me, I just had to switch to teaching only online, and my classes were only online. And meetings that I would typically have in person with my professors, I ended up meeting with them on Zoom. We it worked out.
It probably worked out more for training, right? And more time.
I don't know about more time, I guess because of the travel, but I felt like almost forcing us to be busier because being in the psychology, especially in psychology, we deal with people's like mental and employment issues like well-being. So because of COVID, they were wanting us to do all this new research. So if nothing else, it made me 10 times busier.
With school and like you said, the online work and everything that's going on, what are the struggles that you faced this year?
Definitely for me is the demand of my time. It's really hard to find time to sleep almost, especially any time to do things that are fun or have free time when I'm getting ready for my master's thesis, which still may not be done in time, and also getting ready for my UFC debut that I'm trying to take training more seriously than ever. It's just been a lot.
Now, when you moved over there, what was the process for you to find a gym to train at and a coach to, get guidance from?
So I actually already knew exactly where I was going to go. Fun story, I knew I was going to prioritize MMA. So when I first started looking at grad schools, I decided them based on the gyms that were around them. So I went on this 2 week road trip, first road trip I ever went on with a friend of mine. And she and I just went to all the grad schools I was interested in across the United States and first checked out the gyms and then would check out the school. And if I didn't like the gyms, we wouldn't even stop by the school. And way to narrow down where I applied to. I ended up applying to 4 different schools, got accepted to 3 out of those 4, and Old Dominion was my first choice. So here I am.
All right. Now, I see that you're at the House of Muay Thai. What makes that the best fit for you?
For one, the striking. Obviously, striking
Mhm.
since the House of Muay Thai and not the House of Jiu Jitsu or something. So I knew I needed to work on my striking and make sure I could implement it in my fighting, even though I felt like I had a decent background. I've definitely learned a lot since I moved here. And then also the coaches. I knew it was a smaller gym, but the coaches had very high accolades. The jiu-jitsu coach here is a black belt. His name's Mackin Simmerzer. He was actually a UFC fighter and WEC fighter. And so I looked up all the things about the gym, who they had competing, and also messaged them and talked to them. And they just seemed like a good fit for me. And it really has been. I like the smaller gyms that can really help focus my training instead of having a bunch of people. And also the gyms that are smaller usually have more of a family feel to them. And I like that.
All right. Now, you were signed by the UFC earlier this year. You were scheduled to face Mara Borella on June 28th in Vegas. What actually happened leading up to that fight?
I am not going to discuss the specifics, but I
Mhm.
find an injury that was unknown. Nobody knew about it. I had no idea about it. It could have put me out of fighting for eternity. It could have put me out, would have made school hard, driving hard, everything. So it was really important that they ended up catching it in the pre-fight medicals. Unfortunately, it wasn't until I was already in Vegas and only 2 days before the fight. So it was really kind of heartbreaking, honestly. We didn't know if I would ever be going back to the sport or if there was a remedy to it. And it was scary for me. It was definitely scary for my parents. Luckily, it's all been taken care of. I still have some related side effects from it, but as far as fighting, I'm good to go. I've recovered back into training with more motivation than ever because now I know there's these hurdles put in my way and there's a reason to put in my way, and now I'm ready to jump over them and get to fighting.
Yeah, I got those vibes when you posted on Instagram after you were pulled, and I read it. I'm like, it must be something really serious to where, you could feel the emotion in your words.
Yeah, thank you. I tried to make it clear that I needed my privacy, but also wanted everybody to know it was something serious.
Mm,
There were so many rumors going around, and I got
yeah.
frustrated by that. But I also don't want it to be known to people. Targets can make you weak in fights and vulnerable, so I'd rather not let that be the case.
So how long after, you discovered that, you get it all situated, get what you need to do with the doctors, and then you get back into training?
Took me about 2.5 months to get back to
Mhm.
actual training. 3 months before I was comfortable with full training, hard training. But the second I stepped back into the gym, I wanted to fight. I wanted to get back in there. It was absolutely devastating to get there, be 2 days before what was supposed to be my dream, me finally getting into the UFC, and then they're like, "Nope, you can't." And I'm like, "No, what? I'm already here. I'd already flown there. I'd already paid for a whole fight camp, spent money, time, effort." I guess the only positive to come was I had both my parents come out and see me, and the first time being in Virginia, for my medical procedures.
4 months later, and we're here we are. You're heading to Fight Island, probably on the biggest card of the year. What is the level of anticipation for you to be debuting on such a big card?
It's huge, because of the injury and everything. I did take a lot of time to focus on my nutrition. I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life.
Mhm.
We've been training really hard for this fight and smart for this fight. That's a difference that has evolved over time, is that smart training versus just training a lot and not letting myself recover. And being on the card that I'm on, it's the biggest card of 2020. I'm going to get so much exposure, so many new, environments. I've never traveled overseas. So that's going to be huge for me. I wish COVID wasn't an issue so that I could at least walk around and look around, but I'm excited to have this opportunity.
And also, you said it's your first time traveling overseas, and you get to fly like basic first class, right? It's a dream.
Not exactly first class because I'm not their champ yet, but it's still a flight out. Actually, it might be because they're flying me to Vegas and then fly.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. That might be really
Yeah, it seems like the whole plane is pretty decked out with, all the luxury. So I guess you get to experience that.
thought about that at all.
Yeah, well, it's gonna be awesome for you. Now, your opponent, Liana Jojua, she is 1-1 under the organization. What is your assessment of the two fights she's had so far?
Um, So you're told never to underestimate your opponent. So I want to
Mhm.
think about her as the hardest opponent I've ever faced, and I train as if I'm fighting Valentina Shevchenko. Every
Mhm.
time I walk into the gym, I'm training for the best person out there. It doesn't matter who's standing across from me in the cage. But for Jujua specifically, I don't really see anywhere she's stronger than me. They talk about her grappling, and I've heard her called submission specialist, the submission wizard, like whatever they want to call her. And it's amusing to me because if you go back into my own portfolio, I have just as many, if not more, wins by submission. And in my opinion, against much tougher girls. A lot of her opponents have been people within her own country and have not the best records. And I think that's a way of, I wouldn't say padding your record, but it definitely shows that you're better than you really are. And I think that she just hasn't had people that have decent grappling go against her yet. And I feel like I'm well rounded. I have the striking and the grappling. And if she's worried about going to the ground with me, she's going to be that much more vulnerable in the stand up.
So you're saying maybe her biggest strength is not her biggest strength?
Yeah, absolutely. Not against me. It's not. It is her
Yeah.
overall. It's my biggest concern is don't be stupid and get caught in an armbar from bottom while I'm beating her up. But at the same time, I'm prepared for all of it, whether it goes 3 rounds, whether it's the first round, and I can't see her trying to take me down. But at the same time, if I can get her cornered with my striking that she doesn't, from rumors told, doesn't think I have, um, then I'll do that, and we might end up on the ground and it be a finish in the first round.
Now, have you made any adjustments to your training camp due to the restrictions, or maybe there aren't no restrictions, are there?
They have eased up in Virginia. We are able to train fully, especially me with smaller groups that I train with anyway, because the level I'm at, it restricts The first time, like, when I was supposed to make my debut, that was really hard. It was basically just
Mhm.
my coach and a couple people that I would call every once in a while to have come in and train. Now, pretty much the whole gym is up and running. I even have a couple new people helping me train that moved into the area from the military and started at my gym that are closer to my size. One of them of which is a guy that's had about 4 MMA fights, so it's been really nice having him. He's a 135 pounder with good boxing and good wrestling. So it's nice having him join the team along with both my coaches working a lot more personally with me than I ever have in the past. So it's been wonderful.
You are currently on a 5-fight winning streak. You know, you've had some phenomenal performances. Does momentum play a factor for you heading into a fight?
Not necessarily. Obviously, there's always that pressure of not wanting to lose, and I wouldn't care if I had just lost. The motivation would be the same. I hate failure. My least
Mhm.
thing ever. Anybody who likes failure, I don't know what's wrong with you, but it devastates me, and just the thought of ever failing devastates me as well. And this is my UFC debut. That's probably the biggest motivator. Is I'm
Mhm.
out there. I've got to show my stuff, show why I'm at this point, and that I'm here to stay. And I want to be in the top 10 within the next couple of years. So I want to go out there and put on a performance that proves that I'm on my road to there.
What is the performance that you wanna put on? Is it submitting the submission artist?
Well, I would like to think that we could have performance of the night, but I don't think there's going to be enough aggressive back and forth to make that happen. So I want to go
Mm.
in there and just finish her aggressively, fast, and put on a show. Whether it be a whole grappling clinic, I'm not sure how that's going to go, but I plan on making it a dominant performance.
Your parents are a big part of your life. I saw that you posted something about your father's passport. Did you guys get that situated, or is it not gonna happen?
Fortunately, it's not happening. He will not
Mhm.
be on this fight. Aside from one other fight that wasn't that important at the time, this is the first time he will not be in my corner. So it's kind of it's frustrating and upsetting. He'll be there every other time, but he'll be there in spirit this time as well. It just sucks that he's not going to be there for a debut. This is kind of what I've dreamed of since I started, and he's the one that's been there with me and supported me and encouraged it since I started. But he'll be watching, and I'm going to get teared up right now. He'll
Mhm.
be watching and supporting me from afar.
Definitely, you could call it extra motivation, and after you win, you could give him the shout out after in the post fight in the cage, right?
Absolutely.
Alright. Now, what do you think you bring to that 125-pound division, that no other woman possesses right now?
I think my strength, my wrestling, my youth, and also just my aggressiveness in the fight. Valentina needs somebody to fight. It looks like a lot of people battling for that top two all the time and get smashed, in my opinion. And um, I want to show that I'm that next wave. I have new technique. um, I'm stronger, like physically stronger than these girls, but also have the fight IQ to go with it. And I improve between every single fight camp, partly because of my youth and partly because of how I train at the gym. Um, so I want to show that in each one of my fights.
You mentioned Valentina, a lot of the women that I speak to in that division, they're very, very complimentary towards her. When you look at the champ, do you see any flaws?
Her grappling has not been tested that much.
Mhm.
We don't even know if it's a flaw because it hasn't been tested. Maybe she's a black belt who's the best on the ground ever. We don't know because
Mhm.
she's been just so dominant. She doesn't even need the grappling. She has good takedown defense. Right now, she is by far the most dominant, not only in this division but maybe across divisions. Um, but I'd definitely be excited to test out her skills on the ground and all together. She has that speed that nobody's been able to combat and
Mhm.
has that different rhythm that people don't seem to understand how to mix up the rhythm. They always go as soon as she's punching them in the head. And don't wait to take her down.
Mhm.
Has the momentum on you. You might as well do it at the beginning and go.
Jennifer Maya, she's a woman that, is very skilled on the ground. Do you see her being able to take out Shevchenko? What is the percentage-wise?
Maybe 10. Um, There, Jennifer Maya, I really respect her. I like her. I don't want to talk trash on her or anything like
Mhm.
that. I was in Invicto when she was the champ, uh, so I like her and I like her personality. But I just don't think her or anyone else right now in the division is gonna topple Valentina's crown.
It's the next wave. You know, what you said earlier, I think the next wave is the one that's actually focused a lot of their training around beating Valentina rather than the wave right now that's coming up. I'm pretty sure they're trying to beat Valentina too, but it's going to be a hard task. For yourself, October 24th, UFC 254, Fight Island. It's incredible. I love that you're making your debut here. I've been watching you in Invicta for years now, and you are the next crop. Thank you so much, Miranda.
Appreciate that.
Take a move in the ring. You can hit me with a